whenever I'm training a guy that's involved in his first death investigation, I always tell him, be on a first name basis with the corpse, because it's a really crass way to remember a very important point about interpersonal relationships. All right, man, take a seat, buckle up. Ordinarily, we'd start with orientation of the car here, but we got calls pending, and we got to get to them. So, we're rolling. We're going to have to learn on the way. All right, today, you deal with a death investigation, regardless of whether it's a homicide or it looks like a natural death. If it's a 16-year-old kid that's shot on the street, or a 95-year-old lady that's found in her bed, passed away in her sleep in the middle of the night, you're going to have to talk to the family at some point normally. When you talk to the family, the first thing you want to find out is the first name of that person, if you can identify them. Get the first name of that person, and you refer to them by their first name. We don't ever want to say the deceased, the body, the dead person, none of that. And while we're talking with people, we don't want to say anything that would remind them that that person is deceased. The reason is pretty simple. It can take between days and years for the average person to come to terms with the fact that someone that, 20 minutes ago, 3 days ago, 3 hours ago was their loved one or their close friend. So we have to keep in mind that anytime we bring up the fact that that person is now deceased, they're not thinking of that person as deceased. That is still to them their loved one, their friend, their brother, their sister, their mother, their aunt, whoever it was. So when you deal with a death investigation, lots of times, even with natural deaths, we have to be able to get information from the family. We want to know that person's full name. We want to know their date of birth. We need to know, their social security number, where they lived, where they lived prior, who their boyfriends and girlfriends were. We need to know what their prior medical information was, what doctor they're seeing, the phone number for the doctor, and that's going to be a lot harder if we can't elicit that information from the family. So we want to make sure that when we talk to them as though the person was still alive. We don't ask them, what medication did old Aunt Grace take? We say, what medication does Grace take every day? Can you show me where Grace keeps her medication? Who's his girlfriend? Where does his girlfriend live? Not who was his girlfriend, where did his girlfriend live? Because every time you bring up that person, even in little subtle ways that person is no longer around, what you're doing is you're triggering in that family member or that friend's head the initial response that they had, just a little bit of that initial response they had when they first realized that person was actually deceased. We want to avoid that, because when you're trying to get information from people, even if they're trying to answer our questions, even if they're trying to help us, if we remind them that person's deceased and they're thinking in their head, oh my God, I can't believe they're dead, I can't believe this is happening, they're not thinking about the problem that we have at hand. And they're not thinking about how to help us, so they're going to forget a lot of information. They're going to have a hard time recalling it because they're dealing with their emotions. In order to keep the emotional level down a little bit, a great way to handle this is to talk to brother-in-laws, sister-in-laws, people that are members of the family but a little bit removed from it, and that puts one barrier of separation between the emotions and the information that we're trying to get. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with any type of death investigation. We want to talk about the person as though they're still alive and use their first name. We don't ever want to say the dead person, the deceased, or bring up the fact that they're no longer with us. We want to treat them like they're a live person. And as an added bonus, when you treat the dead like they're live people, the family believes more and more that we care about that deceased person, and that means they want to help us more. It's win-win all the way around. Plus, we don't want to give people the impression that we're crass and don't care, but we have a job to do. Whether if it's a natural death, we have to get that person on through the coroner's office or medical examiner's procedure, and if it's not a natural death, we've got a homicide to investigate. So keep those in mind. If you haven't already, check out our Patreon. We've got a new goal up on Patreon. If we get $200 in Patreon support a month, we're not going to monetize any new videos. We're not going to put ads on any new videos that come out for the first week that they're out, so you won't have to watch ads when you watch the show if you watch when the videos first come out. I think it's an interesting goal. It keeps there from being a separation between people having to pay in order to get content, and I'd love all this content to stay free and out there for everybody. I don't want the fact that somebody only makes $6, $7, $8, $9 an hour to keep them from having at least a little bit of good training from somebody out there in the world. You guys be safe, and we will see you next week. Well, now if you like that video, go ahead and subscribe, because there's a whole lot more to come. As soon as I finish up these calls, Go 10-8. County 291. 291. Bonus tip. Anytime you're dealing with the family members of the deceased, this is not the time to enlighten people about the way death works, okay? Because we're in a profession where we get to see people who are at their very worst, and we know a little bit more because it's part of our job to know a little bit more about how death occurs and how long people stay awake when they're in the process of however it is that they're dying. We don't need to share that with the family. If you don't know, say you don't know. If the information that you have, they probably don't want to hear, tell them you don't know. If you can, if you have to, lie to them. Tell them, well, I don't see anything in my experience that would lead me to think that they had any pain when they went. There's no reason to tell the family that this person was in a lot of pain before they went. No reason at all. You want to be nice to them. And if push comes to shove, push absolutely comes to shove, push it off on the funeral home directors. Funeral home directors, I'm sure they don't like me saying this, but funeral home directors are very good at knowing the right words to say to people about someone passing away. So if you get an old lady or old man who gets found at home in their bed, family asks you about it, if you're good, you have the gift of gab like me, you tell them, you know what, it looks like they passed in their sleep. I don't think that they were in any type of pain at all, regardless of what it looks like. And if you can't say anything, you don't know what to say, hey, you know what, the funeral home director will be here and they're going to see, and you know what, oftentimes they know a little bit more about these things than I do. Or you can talk to the medical examiner later on and see what they say. I'm not a doctor, I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. It really goes a long way. If you've ever seen somebody that's made that mistake of saying, oh yeah, no, you don't want to enlighten people. This isn't the time for a learning experience for the family about what it's like to die in certain methods. Just let it go.